This is Josh from Architects and Sylosis, and today I'm going to show you through my new STL Tonehub preset pack. Right, so here's my mix. These are the guitars. I did quad track them, but the secondary guitars didn't really make it into the final mix. So I'm just going to stick with two for now, and I'm not going to link the tracks. I'm just going to copy and paste the settings over. So here's how it sounds. These are the guitars raw. There is some low and high pass filtering. I'll get to that later, but it's not really doing much at all. And I do have a tiny bit of C4 multiband compression on the individual guitar tracks, but it's not doing that much. I'll get into that in a bit. But here's how the guitars sound. This is the raw tone as it was captured in the mix. So, sounds pretty cool to me. I really, wanted the focus of this pack to be tones that were just great at the source. So, the mic placement nailed, dialing in the amp settings just right for that specific speaker, that kind of thing. It's also worth mentioning that Architects and Sylosis, two very different bands. Architects, we go down to a low F sharp tuning. Sylosis does stuff in E standard. Near enough, most of what I'm looking for when capturing a good guitar tone is kind of similar no matter what the tuning is. The only thing that I think really, I might bear in mind is how much filtering you'll do at the front end of the amp, like with a boost pedal, and how tight it is going in, or maybe how much gain you'll use, and maybe some smaller EQ moves on the amp. But for the most part, these tones to me work great no matter what tuning you're in. And for this example, we're in, this is just D standard. So let's check out the plugin. I'm just going to solo one of these guitars and bring it into the center. So this tone that I used for this demo, it was an EVH 5153 50 watt on the red channel. It was through a Mesa Boogie 4x12 traditional straight cab with vintage 30s from the year 2000. All these are the speaker years. For the most part, I like to use an SM57 on the cab, but now and then I'll use a Sennheiser 41, which is sometimes blended in, sometimes just a 41 on its own. But for the most part, I like to stick to a 57. And in the notes section here, you'll see what boost pedal I used. So that's probably a Maxon OD808. Yeah. So anyway, here's how that guitar sounds on its own. Also, whilst we're here, I'm just going to show you just how little this C4 multiband compressor is actually doing. Bear in mind that's minus 6 dB down there of gain reduction, so it's barely doing anything. And I tend to use these on the individual tracks, obviously after the plugin. As opposed to using it on a stereo bus. I think it just responds better when you're doing it to the individual guitars. Yeah, so anyway, let's check out some more tones. This is the PRS Archon, which is pretty cool. $6505. I do really like the dual rectifier tones I got. Just going to copy and paste that over to the other channel and hear how that sounds in the mix. Really into that. Again, paying a lot of attention to these tones at the source. Also worth noting that the 6505 Plus, the difference between that and the 6505 is that the front end is a bit more filtered, so there's a bit less low end on the front end of the amp going in, kind of like the kind of effect you get when you use like a Maxon pedal to tighten up the low end. So in terms of selecting an amp or a tone that suits, let's say, a low tuned guitar, that's something to bear in mind. So using a 6505 Plus has a lot more filtering going on, so it's a lot tighter if you are going down, like 7 or 8 string territory. What else we got here? This is the PV Triple X, the original one. Very underrated amp. 5150 block letter. There's a big debate about the difference in the way they sound. Some people say there's no difference. I mean, the guy that made it says there's no difference in the way they're made, but then some people say that maybe the original Transformers, you know, lead into things, factor into things. I have both in this room. I have a 6505 and a block letter, and there is a distinctive difference, mainly on the kind of low end and low mids. Could just be that they're two different amps, and it could just be, yeah, the block letter thing. Either way, here it is. Frankenstein, Marshall JVM. Diesel VH4. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to check out another tone. Let's go for, I know this one's cool. So this one's currently on the dual rack sound, so I'm just going to switch to the 6505. Cool, so let's get into the EQ side of things then. So the low and high pass filtering, I tend to kind of not go too much further up than 60, and I keep it around 12 at the high end. So the high pass filtering, you see a lot of people you know, trying to tighten up their guitar tones by getting rid of loads of low end, and they'll maybe go like up to here or something. And although you are getting rid of loads of subby low end that you don't want, you are also drawing the listener's ear to thinking that this is, you know, what's left of the low end is now in this kind of more murky lower mid area. So I usually find if you let a bit more of that low end in, and if you want to, you know, bring out or bring those more murky frequencies down, but still retaining some of that subbier low end, maybe not subby, but yeah, I'd rather do that. So yeah, let's get into some EQing. So yeah, I'm really stoked with how that sounds, but for the sake of ease and me not having to take pictures of every single amp setting I'm doing, all of the controls are set to noon, but that doesn't actually correspond to how they were when I captured the tone. Just makes things a lot easier. Yeah, so I think that's everything I wanted to run through.